And welcome back to Backspace Academy. In this lecture, I'm going to talk about how you can present a business case for migrating over to Amazon Web Services. I'll talk about the advantages of cloud computing. I'll talk about the tools that are available to estimate the costs of AWS. I'll talk about total cost of ownership and the tools that are available to measure that. I'll talk about the Amazon Inspector service that reduces your costs for security. I'll talk about the AWS compliance program. And finally, I'll talk about where you can get support for your organization within AWS. AWS defines 6 advantages and benefits of cloud computing. First off, we're going to be trading capital expense for variable expense. So what that means is we're not going out and buying major equipment. We're not going out buying network servers. We're not going out and buying office space to house it. We're not going out and buying air conditioners. And we're trading that for a variable pay-as-you-go expense that we can estimate with high accuracy and we can write off immediately. We're going to benefit from the massive economies of scale that AWS have. They literally have hundreds of thousands of customers, and we're spreading those costs across those hundreds of thousands of customers. And that's going to provide us with a great economy of a scale. We don't need to worry about guessing capacity anymore. These can be implemented as elastic services that can expand and contract as our demand changes. We can be more agile and we can respond to customer demands much more quickly. For example, we can spin up an elastic beanstalk environment within minutes, not hours or days or weeks or months even. We can do that in a very short amount of time and get our application up and running really quickly. We're not going to worry about spending money on running and maintaining data centers. We have data warehouses. We have large capacity data services on AWS, and that is a pay-as-you-go service. And finally, we can go global in minutes. This is a massive architecture. It's a massive global infrastructure that is available for us within AWS, and we can go global across every part of the world you can think of. If you're looking for a very quick and simple way of estimating the costs or the monthly costs of using AWS, then you can use the AWS Simple Monthly Calculator. And so what that does, it enables you to put in what your EC2 instances will be or what your other services, what your S3 buckets and the size of those you expect those to be. Put in all your data transfer information that you expect, and that will spit out an estimate of your monthly bill. It also has on the right-hand side there, you can see there are common customer samples, so you can actually get a pre-baked estimate already. So you can see there for a large web application, all on demand, you can use that as a starting point for your monthly calculator. So what that looks like is that you will get everything broken down into a item by item basis and the costs of that, and you can export that to CSV, which is great if you want to put that into a report and present it to management or to accountants. So if you want to learn more about the AWS Simple Monthly Calculator, go to aws.amazon.com/calculator. If you're looking to present a business case for migrating from on-premises or co-location over to AWS, then there's a lot more that you need to take into account. So yes, we know that we're going to have server costs and storage costs, but there's also going to be network costs. There's going to be IT labor costs, and those are also going to include other costs. For example, when we look at server costs, it's not only the hardware, it's also the software, the operating system, the maintenance of that software as well. When we look at storage costs, there's also administration costs involved in that. And servers, storage, and networks all have an overhead cost as well. They require space, they require electricity, they require air conditioning. So that all needs to be taken into account. And AWS provides a great tool, the AWS TCO calculator, and you just go to awstcocalculator.com to have a look at that. So when you go to the AWS TCO calculator, you can see that there at the top there's an option for advanced or basic. So the basic version just gives you servers and storage. The advanced takes into account server, storage, network, and IT labor. So what you do is you put in there what your existing architecture is and what your existing hardware and costs currently are. And then AWS will look at a business case scenario of applying AWS services to fulfill what you've already got. One of the major costs within a large organization will be the costs of security audits and the cost of having consultants come out and analyze your security and the like. So the Amazon Inspector helps to massively reduce those costs. It's an automated security assessment service. And it acts as an expert system and will go through your entire architecture and make sure that there are no gaps in your security. So it helps to massively reduce the costs of manually doing that. The pricing is very cheap, starts at 30 cents per agent assessment per month. And there is, of course, volume discounting on that, and it can go down to as low as 5 cents per agent assessment per month. AWS is certified and compliant to a very large amount of regulations, certifications, frameworks and the like that are out there. The big ones there, we can see that it is certified to Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard, which is a very good one. It's ISO 9001, as most major organisations are. So it's certified in that. It also provides services that can enable you to become certified in a standard, for example, HIPAA standard or GLBA for finance. Now, one thing to understand is that there is a big difference between AWS being compliant to a standard and AWS providing compliance enabling services. So, for example, when we look at ISO 9001, AWS is certified in that. When we look at PCI DSS Level 1, AWS, they have a certificate in that. They are certified and compliant for PCI DSS Level 1. When we look at something like HIPAA, HIPAA is not a standard for cloud services. It's not a standard for data storage, but it does define that in the standard. So the HIPAA application covers a lot more than that, and it's the AWS customer is responsible for that application. But AWS, the services that they provide, will not impede that process. They have services that are compliance enabling services, and they also have a program that can structure their services to make that more streamlined for you to achieve the HIPAA compliance for your application. So please understand that AWS is not certified in HIPAA, but they have services that have been assessed by a third party that can enable clients to achieve certification in HIPAA. Now, when you're presenting a business case to migrate across to Amazon Web Services, one of the key advantages obviously going to be the reduction in support personnel. So obviously a question is going to be asked about what happens when something goes wrong. And that's where the AWS support plans come in. So they are available from basic to developer to business to enterprise. So if you're a large enterprise, you may want a quick response to any problem. So if your website, for example, has gone down, you would want to, at the very least, have a business level support plan, which is going to give you less than 1 hour response to critical failures. But you may also want to look at enterprise and getting that down to less than 15 minutes response to critical failures 24/7. If you want to find out more about the AWS support plans, just go to the AWS website at aws.amazon.com/premium support, compare plans. So that brings us to the end of this lecture, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.